Okay, so I'm going to test, teach you all testing. Raise your hand, open arms if you have done testing before, and this if you haven't. And of course, this means I know how to spell testing. Yeah, the very basic ones. All right. So, who here knows what unit test means? Unit test. What is unit test?
It's like we split the code in the small module.
Okay. Unit testing is testing small units, right? You tend to be a class. You test different methods in that class. There's integration test. When you have different components, you test how they integrate with each other. So today we'll do a bunch of them. There's so many types of testing. If you're curious, definitely Google and read it. Okay? So I am going to pull up our homework. I code the required features. So let's see what we have so far. And then to cover testing. In the past, we work on a new assignment, but that's just it may be very difficult. So it's been difficult. So this time, maybe this is better that I'm going to rewrite the assignment. So don't work on the assignment yet. All right, we'll cover the testing these things. So what do I have so far? I have this. I built this. If you're curious, it's on the demo app that I walked through last time. I added some changes. So here it's a demo of homework 2. We implemented these features. So let's say if I log in as A, and if I log in as B, which is over here, okay? So I log in as A, I log in as B. You can see that I either have messages or user, right? Let's say if I go to users, I will find this B guy, and I added this B guy, so he's in my friends list, B, right? Because I added him, so A is in my followers list. Make sense? So you can see here is you can add people, you can add A back, and obviously here you have to refresh. So this go down here. You can add more people or remove them, right? So now we're testing them, and messages is the idea is that you have inbox or not inbox. Somehow I make the new message link disappear. That's one bug. Maybe we can discover that when we test. All right, let's start testing. User can sign up by providing email, password, and name. All right, so how do we start testing? I'm going to make a mistake in front of you guys because I'll show you how to set up with RSpec Rails. Who here has heard of RSpec? RSpec? It's only 3 people. Rails come with the default testing. It's called mini test. My lecture note's still pretty good. Where is it? You guys are free to read it. It's right here. I'll just show you so I don't have to walk through. I'll just show you the default Rails thing. Put everything under test folder. Okay? And let's say if I have a model called category, then this is category test. That's a unit test, right? And then you have test. You can write something like this: test, and it's a name, and it's a block like that. The idea is that it will throw some error if your test is not satisfied. So in Rails, default Rails, it doesn't use RSpec. Okay, it used mini test. Mini test also supports something called Spec. Spec is the syntax that RSpec uses. I will cover that later. This unit test syntax is like this test. So when you see it, just understand that this is unit test, mini test, unit test style. Okay. It uses assert, and all of that. There's many assert. Here's is the assert equal. So in some projects, you'll see this. Rails. When they build Rails, they use mini test. Okay, it's a very fast library to test. Now, however, in a lot of projects in real life, because it's easy to read, it has many rich features. A lot of companies use RSpec, so I'm teaching RSpec because it's more practical. Okay, but don't be afraid. You understand one thing, you can use the other thing. So how do we set it up? RSpec, you need to put this gem. RSpec is a testing library, but you call RSpec Rails because it will include the RSpec gem, and then it also include the RSpec Rails gem. So I put it in here. The reason you want it to be in development and test is because RSpec will run your development. RSpec will run your, just test database. So you want it in test, but you will call some RSpec command that's in development. Stop me, that's confusing. So I have RSpec Rails. So let's see. Currently, I only made one change right here. And then after I made that change, you see that it includes all these guys. These are the libraries used for RSpec. Okay? So I'm done including it. And as usual, some of the gem you already know include some generate things. So I generate the configuration for RSpec. So what does it do? It create a configuration file RSpec. There's nothing here. It just use color and it use the spec helper file. Right? There's a spec folder, and then it create this guy just to load the Rails environment. It's not much, but I'm going to add everything, and I call this add RSpec. It's a commit, right? So again, that's nothing new. My repo is clean again. Let's say if I generate scaffold, let's say I create something, let's say you call it, let's call it person. You have name and company. These are string columns, okay? Remember scaffold? It gives you controller, view, model, route. But now RSpec hook you up, and you also have this thing. You see, these are the default test files for you to fill in, similar to helper, view, all right? So these are the generators that RSpec gives you. So you see, there's a people controller spec. You can even write view spec like this, route spec and everything. So obviously, I'm just demoing you what changes. The only thing that changes is RSpec gives you that generator. I'm destroying this scaffold because I don't need it. I'm going to test my own, thing over here. Let's write our first test. Let's try a simple one. I have to remove this guy. Let's write a simple test. So let's look at any of our model. What model should I look at? Any idea? User model? Sure, okay. So let's say I want to test, there's there's maybe a contact info method. I want to test if I have a user named, Harley, right? With an email is a.example.com. I want to print something called Harley, so you can copy in your email. Email accept this syntax, right? Do you know this one? When you copy and paste to email, it will accept this as the name of the contact, and then this is the email of the person you email. Yeah? If you go to your email, you will see. Click from to. So I want that. So right now I don't have it. So I do .email, and then I do .name. But what I want is the other. So I know what I want. So let's write I know what I want first. Rails generate RSpec. I'll do the first one. I'll get model, right? Do an this is really nothing fancy. Just create a file. I'm too lazy to create mine myself. Let's look at this file. What folder is it in? Thank you. Model, user spec. So it requires Rails helper. It just load what is necessary and say I'm testing the user thing here, right? Don't worry about it. That's why using a generator is cool. You don't have to remember. Let's test the first thing. It's called describe. And if you test a method, then you use a pound. Remember? Right? We are trying to implement something like a user contact info, something like that. Method. Okay? I want to be able to call, a.user.first, a.contact info. This is an instance method, right? Contact info, right? So I'm testing contact info. All right, describe, it's a block. Now you say it, right? Should. Now it renders, some people like to write the word should, render name and email. Right? You describe what it does. Okay? Now there's no data. So you have to create it yourself. So I just need to say user is user.new. There's no need to save it. If I don't save it, then it's not in the database. So it's faster. And my name is, let's say, Adam. Okay? Okay? So there's a thing called expect. Now see, that's the difference. You don't use assert, use expect. Expect user dot contact info to equal what is the string? Adam A. What do you think? Does it look clear?
Yeah.
Looks like any person can read this, right? It's English. Yeah? So if I have that, then I can run RSpec. If you run RSpec, it will run the entire spec folder. If you can tell it one file, it only run one file. It's up to you. I run this right now. What error do I get? Makes sense, right? Yeah? Can you guys see this? Contact undefined method. So I'm introducing this concept. It's called behavior-driven development. Or also test. So we're writing test when we developing code. It means we're test-driven development. That's TDD, right? TDD, right? Test-driven development. Right? You write test and then you implement it. But your test is a behavior. You actually say, hey, in this user model, there should be this contact info thing. That's the behavior. So it's called behavior-driven development. BDD is part of TDD. Okay? It's just a process. It's just a little nicer. You expect. You see? I expect. You test first. Yeah.
TDD, you write the test first.
In general, when you say driven development, means you do that first and then you develop. However, it's not always the case. It's up to you. You test first, you test later. When we become really good, then you can actually, in serious project, you write test first and then you go through the process. It can be faster. It's like religion. Some people love writing tests first for everything. My philosophy, write tests. If it helps you write code faster, safer. Everyone should learn how to write tests, but not everyone has to write tests before they write code. Not everyone. It depends. Your practice. All right. You see, notice the error, okay? First error is called undefined method. So I'm going to change this to, okay, it's undefined. So how do I change so that it fixes this error? Who can help me? I go to user model and I say def contact info, okay? And then I type this and I do this again. And I run it. This allows you to catch your errors and you know exactly what's going on. Because sometimes you forget to restart, you forget that you changed file, There's so many reasons to forget. But now you change the code and you know, okay, is it what you expect, right? Yeah? So how to make this test fast? You type Adam, a.example.com, right? Enter. Done. So we have good code. In general, there's nothing wrong with this. Do that first. And you're like, I get it now. I get it. So now I need another test. Now I need this one to be Brad. Right? And this is B. So I just have a second test. Maybe I can do a second test. So for Adam, if you want, you write so that you make sure someone doesn't cheat, so you can write the same thing here, right? And then here is B. Of course, this is a stupid example, but sometimes you have example where you calculate the total price, so you want different food items and you take the whole order, right? You want different test cases. So what is this? This will be Brad and B. So how can you make this work for both? Right? How do you make it work? And here, then you now like, I changed to Brad. Will it work? The first one will fail. So now you realize that, it's good. The whole process allows me to write code that I feel very good about. So this is email. And then I run this. Implement it. And I feel like this code works for different test cases. Make sense? And it's beautiful. So I add the first one, right? First test. Yay! Okay? Now, I'm going to use something called guard. Who here has heard of guard before? Okay. Guard RSpec. And I want the test to run every time I save my file, so it's a little faster. Let's follow the README. Go right here. Where's development? I think it's in development. This is fine. Guard. Inside development group. This is good, right? And then you run bundle. And then you say bundle exec guard init RSpec. So you're creating. I'll explain what guard does. Whoa. Alright, what does it do? It creates this file called guard file. Guard is like a program. It's a library, it's a program. Here it's a guard. This is an RSpec guard. This is one property, okay? Every time there are changes in the RSpec folder, I will run the test. In the Rails app, like app folder, app model, app views, everything. I will run the spec for that file. So it's just watching Ruby, it's watching my Ruby here. Watch. It watch all these folders in my Rails app. If you change the file, it runs the test. That's all. Don't worry about the exact syntax. Okay? So I have that. Then what does it say? Include all of this. That seems fine. So let's run. Guard. Alright. Check this out. Guard is now ready. So I go and go to my user and I save it. You see it runs the test automatically. So if you accidentally, your friend somehow go in here and then, accidentally fat finger. It's like, and then you change, you forget, and then you save your thing. And then it fails, right? Or you have another friend who did not know that contact info is already implemented, who works with you, and this person write it in the reverse order, right? This person does this. So you look, you have this code, but then there's an extra line. There's nothing wrong with your code. Ruby never complained. And then you save it. This person's like, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. The test catches the problem, and then you should run the test before you commit. Make sense? So that's useful. Let's do more. All right. All right, so I have this guard. Happy, I'm adding a little bit more. All right. How do we test users can sign up by providing this? What are some components of Rails? What are some components of Rails? I will maybe I need somewhere to test. All right, to take note here. Some component of Rails. Model. I just show you a model test. What else? Controller. What else? Views. What else? Huh? Routes or root. American and British English. And then what else? View helpers. What else? And then also integration tests, like this whole thing. Yeah. So we'll cover some of this here. Okay. Some is not very useful. Model is always super useful. This is a unit test. All right. All right. So user can sign up by what test is that? I would try something first. Maybe I test if user go to. I'll show you a route test here. If the user go to sign up, this is a good test where if the user go to sign up, I will take the user to users controller new action. Okay? So I copy this line right here. How do I generate a route? I don't know. Huh? Let's see, Rails generate RSpec. See if there's any route. Is there one? No. There's no route. There's like model, feature. All right, so I'll create this myself. Where's the RSpec? Routing here. So I create a file called spec/routing/signup. Okay, spec.rb. If you're curious, how it works, you just copy, go online, search for route test. So I'm just copy and paste this guy over here. Okay, what file is it? Sign up spec. Okay, so if you say here route, what am I testing? It's just a string that describes routing, and then I test. If you go to sign up, please take me to users and new. Is that reasonable? Okay, and if I save that, it's a new file. So let's see. All right, let's fix the user test first. Where's, why is it failing, guys? Oh, I added a space here. You see, even sometimes you make a little mistake like that. So this one works, and there's two tests. So it means my route test was run and it passed. Here. Are you sure it passed? So let's say it's very important to make your test fail, and then you make it pass, because then you know it's testing the right thing. All right, you see this? Okay, so why did my test pass? It means if it passed, I can go to sign up, and it should take me to, it should take me to expect get sign up. It should route to user/new, right? Let's say, should go to new here. Not sure why this route test, it passes. All right, it doesn't. So, no route, similar to this, right? But I don't have to test it. So, when your customer tells you, hey, I want people to, this is your user story, right? People go to /sign up, take them to user sign up. So your first test is sign up, user/new. How do you make this test pass? Okay. Get sign up, go to. All right. So if you save this, you see it tests, it runs the route. Huh? Oh, this one, right? Okay, good. So you just passed that. And now the next one does not, this is a cool test too. It means you don't accidentally, your app, you don't accidentally provide /users to everyone. So this is like not routable. It means this, if you write this requirement, you don't want your app to, you go to, let's say, you don't want something like Facebook /users and go there and display all the users in the world, maybe, right? So your app, you don't want this to happen. Now, depending on your need. I actually provide this, it display all the user, but if you sign out, let's say I log out, I actually don't allow it, right? This is not good. It crashes, so maybe a test is good there. You can actually say what before action. This should be in the controller test, right? Before action, what? Require user only index path, right? Let's see if it works. There's no you require user, so where's my require user? Oh, it's here. Why does it not work? Did I type wrong? Oh, before action, it's that. And then, so it's like that, right? But this is your controller test. This is not routes test. So this one is just an example, okay? I don't need this. I will add a controller test. Make sense? Let's do that. Let's implement, you know how to implement a route test now, right? Let's do a controller test. So Rails generate RSpec controller. Let's say a user. If you have RSpec first, when you generate your model, generate your controller, it automatically generates this. So you don't have to run this. But if you add RSpec later, then you can do this thing, okay? So controller test. Let's do something that we here. Go to my user. I turn off this feature first, okay? Turn off this before action, okay? And in my controller test, I'm writing a controller test. What are we writing? Something like describe. If you send a GET request to user, does that make sense? Right? So if you send this, so you can say something like it should, it redirects if user is not logged in or signed in. So how do we do that? So it's visit. You can say visit, /users, something like that. So let's look at the controller. Controller test, something like that. So you can actually go straight to the action. Because here you don't care about routes. You're only testing the controller action, right? So say, I'm testing the user's controller. If someone go to the index action, okay, you can actually do string or it's the same thing. Rails will be forgiving. It's fine. So you say expect response. If you say to be success, it means it render like this. It render like this. This is a successful page, right? And then if you say to not be success, because there's no user, remember? Then it will test. We actually want it to not be success. It's not succeeding. It just redirect. In this case, it crashes. Right? Let's fix the crash. To pretend. All right. Here, let's say if I accidentally have my code as user.all. Okay. Oh, then this page totally require current user, so we're good. We don't want it to crash though. So we want. What do you guys want in this one? Expect it to. What do you want it to do? What do you want it to do? Redirect to something like maybe root path, right? Does that make sense? You even expect it to have a flash message, say error, blah, blah, blah. Yeah? So if I do this, I'm just guessing the syntax, to be honest. It expects this redirect, so I'm going to implement. Actually it just crashes beforehand, so I'm implementing this line up here. See if it does. Expect response to redirect to this, but it redirects to the sign-in path. Oh, that's good. You see the test? So actually my test isn't very nice. I actually do want to go to sign up path. No, sign in or sign up? Sign in, right? Sign in path, right? Or login path. And then of course you look at the test. What is it going to complain? It doesn't know what sign in path is. How do you fix that? Alright, I go to my route. I can add another spec here for sign in, right? You know, it's like if I really want now, you know, I can create a new file. I'm just being lazy here, okay? So go to sign in, and then I sign in. It should go to sessions new, right? Okay? And then it will fail. So I go to my route file, and I add sign in here. Go to sessions new, and then this will, the route will pass. Good, right? Now I go back to the other user controller. I save this. Now it understands my sign in. It say expected it to go to /sign in, but it go to this one here. How do I fix this? In application, require new session path. We actually change it to sign in path. It's easier to read, right? It's the same. Let's say you change it to that. Then it passes. Now you want to see if everything passes. You press enter down here. Great. So I have some, a controller test now. Okay, what is my controller test? It checks that if user is not logged in, then go to sign in path. So let's see. How do we implement? It should, render 200. 200 means you render the page, right? Or display users. It should render and it should display users if user is signed in. This is a little difficult. Alright. Now, if you save this right now, I should expect you want this to be success. Right? Let's look at our cheat code. In here, something like this. It's the same status, right? There are many ways to test it. So success, and I save this right now. We start with a failing test. But in this case, let's just use this one. Not sure. I want to render, 200, but because it redirected, the code is 302, right? 302 means temporary redirect. 301 means always permanently redirect. 200 means the regular one, right? Response with proper template. You can also do this, render, right? I want this to render index HTML. You see my controller test? But how can we make this work? How can we make it work? We have to implement some method called sign in first. Yeah, right? So how do I get the sign in method? So you have to fake some data. So you have a user.create email, G, right? Now we have to sign this user in. What does that mean? Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's figure it out. Is there a sign-in thing here? Well, so you Google something like RSpec. What? RSpec controller, sign in user. Right? So the word stop here means you actually faking the data. So this is a little bit more complicated. I'll find a simpler one. Oh man, these guys are more complicated. We have a normally if I use, this is not what I normally use. I use device and they provide these guys. But we want to implement it ourselves. We simulate a login. Not sure this is gonna work. Let's. I'll get back to you after the break. How I sign in from here, right? The simplest version, right? Actually, let me see if I have this controller right here. Right? So I say controller. Okay, if I do a controller, I'm able to fake a current user method in it. So I will do that later. Let's move on to another test first. I'll get back to you guys on that. So now, if you go to, now most pages we have actually we need to sign in, right? Let's move on to another test. If you go to the view, okay, let me cover the controller first. I've just covered this part. Does this one make sense for you guys? Render something. You can also test. It render the index. Sometimes you go to inbox/inbox. You want to render the index template. Right? Sometimes you render something different. But this is a very good test. So people don't suddenly some code change and then render something else. This is a cool thing. You create data. Alright, if you create data, this is how you test. Oh, this controller should have this variable post. This controller, you post equals to post.all. You can actually test what variables the controller loads. So user.all, for example. So there are many things you can test with the controller this way. Okay. So helper is, let's test a helper one. Actually here then I show you some cool trick I did with the homework. So let's comment this out. I'll get back to you on how to test the user sign in because I need to also figure it out. Let's go to helper. If we create helper test, I'll create a new file called spec helper links helper. You can name it anything. Spec.rb. Okay. So in general, you actually want to test the same helper name as up here. I have some cool helpers for you guys to see. Let's pick one. There's user helper there. There's home. There's flash messages. You can test these messages, flash message method. Maybe in the code you can copy to every project. Create this helper and then test this method. Let's pick one. Let's pick one to test. Which one should we test? All right. I go to localhost. I want to test these guys. How do I display messages and users? You guys know how to use navbar, right? I actually did this. It looks a bit funny. li link to. You know why I did this? Exactly. Oh man, it's so painful every time. You like link to, and then down here you have li, but then up here you need class nav item, and then down here then you have like something here, and then class nav link, right? So then this one, then you have to copy and paste. So because of that, look, I do this here, down here, and it looks a lot cleaner. So how do I do that? I create a helper. It's called link to, li link to. You pass in the title of the link. You pass in the path of the link and some extra option. So it's very similar to link to. But if you do link to like this, guess what happens? It looks like that, right? Because it doesn't have the right bootstrap structure, right? Nav item, nav link. So what I want is to have a method that does more. So this is how you use a helper. So I write this li link to. I want it to work the way I want, expect. So okay, let's read this message a little bit. I pass in just the link, text, the link path, link title, link path. Makes sense, right? Options is default. No need. And then I say, well, if you, in this option, so over here you can say, I want to be able to use link to the way it is, so you can say class, you can make it button or something like that, right? Right? You sometimes make it a button, right? So you can pass in this way. You can say my class, everything, it will still work. How does it work? I say options, class. So if you don't define anything, then I have to set option class to be something. I also know that I always have to give it an extra class name called navLink. And then I also give it another thing called active if I am on the current page. That's why you see this thing. You see this word bolder than this one? You click here, it becomes bolder. Click here, right? This is lighter, this is bolder, right? Same thing here. You see active? There. Using current path. So it's quite good. So that's how you do that. And then here, basically, instead of HTML, I do an li tag with class name nav item, and I use this nav link class up here in this link to block. Does that make sense? All right, so let's test this guy. So I actually want to create a spec helper application helper spec.rb, and then I copy and paste this. I'm not sure if RSpec gives the generator for this or not, so we can just copy. It's quite easy to understand. It requires Rails helper that loads the Rails environment. What is it here? Application helper. So it knows to include the code in here. Okay, type is helper. And then what method am I testing? Li link to, right? Something like that. So you can say, sometimes it's hard to display nested, link, something like this. I don't know, right? Maybe you can say class nav item. Make something make sense correctly. And then here you have this helper, so you can say link to. Okay, what are we testing? We say link to, let's say, home. Go to root path, right? And then you want it to be equal to what? What if you don't know? Just put it whatever you want and run it. right? So this guy doesn't know it yet because it doesn't know the new file yet. All right. Uh-oh. I used link to. I tested. What should I test? Link to. This looks correct, right? But I'm not testing link to, so I'm testing li link to. And it looks like this, right? So there are many ways to test this. One way is you know exactly this is the right output. Look just compare carefully and then just go here, copy and paste, and then run. All right. So if your friend, next time that friend become creative, right? Your friend go in here is like, what is this line 15? I see people pass in the class name. You see the person see here, right? Right. If you somehow delete these guys, right, and then your friend see this line, I'm like, and then go here, look at this code, and say, oh, this line is not necessary, and then delete it, right, and then save it. So obviously you're saving your ass because you have the test. It will fail. You don't have to go and load this page, right? It will throw an error sometimes. So if your friend really think like, oh, I always need a class. So another time is sometimes this active thing is not correct. You might change it to something like primary, something like that, or inverse, or black, or then just change your class accordingly. So this is useful. You can do the same thing with your flash message. Because right now it looks very hard to see your flash message. Like, if you read this, maybe it's not very clear. If you read this, do you understand it very fast what it does? If you read it over here, it's easier to understand, right? So your test code should be easier to read than your real code. So having done some of that, let me show you something. RSpec, I need to output some result. I don't know, export or who knows how to. I forget a lot of RSpec stuff already. Let's see, obviously my test still failed, good. So RSpec, I don't know, man, help. Give me some RSpec format output. Okay, maybe format HTML. We'll see, huh? When you run the whole test, it displays this HTML file. If I output this to a temporary file.html, okay? Now you can open this file. All right, this is our test. You see, you have user controller, helper, you see how much test you've run. Looks cool. And then you can show your client and get their money. I write code for you, and the client can read this. I implement these features for you. Right? So this tool really helps you get money more easily, right? Oh, wait, let me test your feature. Let me test your login. No need to test. I wrote tests already. Just save this as PDF file and then just give me the money. Right? So this is quite cool. You can show, filter them. And in your homework, we also tell you to run something called simple conf. So let me just include it. Ruby gems, simple conf. All right. So copy it. Copy the latest version. Put it in gem file. In development will do, right? Who here knows what simple conf does? Conf means coverage. So it say if you include it, you can put it in the test group. So good. I mean, require false. So I put it in a test group. Where's my test group? You can also put it in development. It doesn't matter here. Let's just put it here and require false. And at the very the very top of your file, so I do this, require, where's my test configuration, spec helper here. So I put it at the up top of my spec helper, and up here. All right, what else? And if you're making a Rails application, oh, you should copy this. Okay. And it will give you how much you've tested in your code. So if you're a project manager, this is the best. When your team write code, you're like, no. Go write more tests. We need higher coverage. So let me just try to run it. Bundle. I need to figure out how to open it. Let's see where the instruction is. Configure it. This is fine. So if it's in the test, probably best to do it in the test. Okay, that's fine. Not gonna bother you with that. So Simcopov. I need to see how to run this guy. Run your test, and then it's in your coverage folder. All right, it's still running. It's going to generate the HTML output for us. Before that, I'm just gonna commit the changes, right? I add more tests. Remove the temp. It's okay. Add more tests. And then let's see if my bundle is done. Okay, it's done. So then now I run the directory is, okay, I'll just commit everything to the previous commit. Okay, nothing here. So run RSpec, spec. It runs everything. Coverage report, generate to this coverage folder, right? So you open your coverage folder. Look, git status, there's a new folder here. You can please commit this folder as well. Okay? And then when you go open coverage, it includes this file. Click on it, and it gives you this. So it's extremely beautiful. You can search for your code. But what's cool here is we tested our application controller. We tested some, and then it thinks that it actually can find out that what is not tested. We didn't test current user. We didn't test this. Not sure why it thinks we. I'm not sure why it thinks we test 85%. We didn't really test this. What do we test? Application helper. All right. So you see green here. That's beautiful, right? It knows we tested these lines, but it knows that we never tested this. So if your friend go and change, your friend here could be you. You're drunk, come home, and then you just change this to sim, remove it. It's probably okay. Or you go home like you think, oh, HTML save maybe not needed. So if you write test, all of this danger can be prevented, right? Be prevented. So that's the motivation. We have a word for those with the highest test coverage. Some people should, they just write code until you get 100%. Let's look at user model. You see 61%. I click on this guy. What have I tested? This is a little silly. Technically, you can test these methods. I don't know why it put green here. Right? It's a bit weird. You see, we tested this method. Yeah? How do you test non-friend? Easy, right? Let's just do it to show you an example. If we model test, if you learn anything, just learn the model test. That's the best test to write. Let's make this line go away. Turn it green. Who can volunteer to test me this method? In this here, I say describe. This is a non-friend. And how do you test it? Now, when you get this same line, look at this guy. We have the same logic, right? One way is to have, you can actually call let user. I do something like this. So you can use user everywhere. This is very common. User. Does it make sense? So now it's almost like you have a method. Okay? So now you say it, this works, something like describe non-friends, and then you say what? Includes no one, no is empty if there are no users. We want some crazy cases like that. So I have say user dot non-friends. So you say expect to equal empty, right? Does that make sense? So if I run this, and where's my guard? Run this guard. Save this file. That works. You also say it includes A if A is a friend, right? So here is like Adam. I don't know if Adam is a friend. Do something, write something that your project manager can read and feel like, oh, this guy is not stupid, right? It's communication. So here you have this as Adam, but then now you have to create Adam as a new what? User, right? So name, oh, this is Adam already, so maybe Brad, right? So this is Brad. So maybe our test can be better. You can change this user to Adam if you want. Okay, so let Brad is, let's do it up here. Brad, and okay, expect this to include Brad. Does that make sense? Now, do you think this will work?
No.
Huh? Why not? Huh? What? Okay, good. What else? Does it work? In this case, we need Brad to be saved in the database. So up here, actually you need create. Okay? Yeah? In some cases, you can test with a fake record. Some cases, you need the real record.
So RSpec makes an entirely different database, right?
Yeah, it's a test database. When you run it, it has it, and then when you finish, it tears everything down. So it becomes empty again.
Well, can you run C?
Sure. No, you see, then you have to do something in here. You can say before, do. So instead of C, I can also say user, you see generate user here? So I say user.generate. Before you run the test, you say I generate 2 users. Okay? So now, instead of Brad, I can just say expect this one. See, I don't want to generate this before every single test. Makes it slow. So, but if you want, you can do this. Okay? But you do this, then down here your test will fail. Right? Then you want to do something different. Maybe like 2 size. You want this size to be 0, to be 2 because you already had 2 users. Depends on your setup. So I don't like creating too much. Sometimes you can set up because if you need to test messages, now you have to create a lot of messages between A and B and C. So maybe use before block. Right? Use before block for something complicated. For something simple, use let. Okay? Okay? If you use before, you can also do user is user.create. It's the same. Then you can use user down here. It's the same. Can someone guess what's the difference? Almost the same. Before do is short for before each. It means every time you run the test, it runs this user create. So even if some tests you don't use the add variable, add user variable, it still run it. So that's not good. It's a waste. So using let, it's called lazy loading. Who here knows the word lazy loading? If you don't use it, it doesn't load it. So you see the word user here, it will call this. But if you, in some tests, you don't have the word user, it doesn't. That's why you can do Adam, if you say Brad here, you can do create, B, Brad. This is not created unless you mention the word Brad. Okay? So it's lazy loading. So down here I say, hey, you just say Brad. It just means create this Brad guy for me. Okay? Expect user non-friend to include Brad. Does that make sense? If I save it, what happened? Uh-oh. It's good. See, like, if I don't have this test, I prove to you that Brad is not run at all. Right? But if I do this, it runs Brad, and then obviously up here it fails. So how do we make it work? Okay, just put a password here, yeah? Let's create a fake record. And for this test to be, be correct, maybe you should create a user as well. Because non-friend, you know, non-friends that you actually checking the friend's ID. So this is where you create real Adam and Brad. So I call Adam here. And maybe I call this a fake user or something, new user. I just make my test a little bit better. In some cases, I don't need the database. In some cases, Adam, I need database. Okay. For the test here, you're using user here, but you can just ignore that. You say new user. Ignore this and just say, yeah, this is fine. This test is now unnecessary, right? Let's keep it clean. When we test non-friends, we need to test real user in the database because we're testing database query. Does that make sense? Up here, we're just testing the method. It's a simple method. So down here, non-friends, user, so I now can call Adam. Has no friend. But if Brad comes, then Adam has one friend. Make sense? Huh? Okay, so what is failing now? Oh, this user, right? This is Adam. Okay, why is it failing? Which one? Line 16? Adam.nonfriends. Oh, wait, what? Adam.nonfriends should be... Why is it displaying Adam? Ha, we found a bug. Oh, shoot. Is there a bug? Adam.nonfriends is empty, right? Because there's only one user. So you can actually expect one more thing. User.count to... Feel free to do that, yeah? So I'm checking. Okay, let's see. If it's... Oh, shoot. There's no Adam, so maybe I create Adam first. This is a little tricky. So I create Adam first, and then it passed line 17. It goes to line 18. There's only one user, but Adam.nonfriends is not empty. It displays Adam. So we just found a bug in my code, just because we actually tested it. So, guys, something happened here. I think there's something wrong with my logic here. How can we fix this? User, not this, and also not my own ID. Right? Right? So this is hard to test in the view when you have to display people and you don't. Now actually, if I do this now, I don't think it understands not like that. So you want this to be like, you know, it's an array. So, you know, what you want here is friend's ID plus my ID. Does that make sense? You want to return this thing. Does that make sense? Oh no! Wait.
Foreign IDs.
Oh, user. No, wait. What happened? Friend. Oh, friends. Okay. Wow. So test is cool because we just managed to do that, and now all the test passes, right? Pass. And then I run. Now because I run that, I open coverage. You see coverage reported here again. Open coverage index. And let's look at user. We improve it to 65%. I hope it was something else. But this is now green. It's tested, right? And you click in here, it also display. It also display number 2 over here. How many times this guy is used? So it's very smart. Okay. So I owe you how to sign in, because after you sign in, you can test a lot more. Unfortunately, I forgot it. So I need to go home and figure out how to do it. I've been writing more mini tests than RSpec. Okay? Any question about test? I will rewrite the homework to test our homework 2 instead of homework 3. Homework 3 is the whole, like, you have to test a different app, and then you have to learn how that app works, and you have to implement some features. So it's a little bit too complicated. Okay? And the code that I use here is in Ruby coder class Ruby demo here. Yeah, I push everything to this guy. So this is from the README. Just implemented everything. What I just did today in lecture, I accidentally commit to master. So I'm going to commit it to a branch call, add coverage, more tests, okay? Discover a fixed bug in non-friends, in user non-friend with test, right? Now because I accidentally committed this, I don't want to git push origin master. I want to push it to a different branch. So I git branch, git checkout, create a new branch called lecture 3. Yeah, git push origin lecture 3. Yeah, and because I pushed that, you guys can check out my code in lecture 3. Click on branches here. Lecture 3. I don't want to accidentally push my code to this master. So I go back to master, git checkout master. You see this guy? How do I reset? Git reset, same as origin master and hard. So I go back to what it was before. Right? So that next class people can still go to this master branch and then they can still see the demo. Right? They probably should see this. This is the whole entire homework. So maybe you can just copy the code. But okay? Alright, I'll let you guys know how to sign in. Sorry about that. Hope you have a taste of test writing.